What is up, everybody, and welcome back. I hope everyone had a fun week at the Century. First event of the year within Hawaii. It was a lot of fun to watch on TV. Honestly, didn't catch a ton of it, but did catch a little bit of the final round. That Taylor Pendrith Albatross was pretty sweet. And ended up having a pretty good week at DFS. My two core plays, Sung J Yin and Colin Morikawa, both finished in the top five. Both my bets finished in the top five, unfortunately. Neither of them were Hideki Matsuyama. I bet on Sungjae and Ludwig Polberg, but still ended up being a good week, especially for Showdown. So hoping we continue that this week for the Sony Open. Now, this event is also in Hawaii, but the courses are completely different. Kapalua was a very wide course, very long course. We were seeing 400-yard drives thanks to the undulations on the fairways. This course is a par 70, just over 7,000 yards. It is a very technical, more of a tight track, kind of think Harbor Town, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not going to be as easy as the one we saw last week, at least in terms of score to par. The last five winners here, 17 under, 18 under, 23 under, 21 under, and 11 under. And the difficulty often just depends on the weather. If it does get windy, it can play a little bit tougher. The fairways, they're not narrow by any means, but 36 yards wide on average, certainly more narrow than the ones we saw last week. The green, 7,100 square feet on average. They feature Bermuda grass. They were pretty easy to hit on average last year. 69% of the greens were hit in regulation. The fairways are pretty difficult to hit, but the missed fairway penalties pretty low here. We do have water in play on 5 of the holes compared to last week. We didn't have water in play on any of the holes. And then 70% of the approach shots are going to be hit from 125 to 200 yards. So a lot of those, wedges and mid irons compared to very few shots hit more than 200 yards, like you're going to see, coming up once we get to California and some of these other events here in the PGA Tour schedule. So that's kind of what I'm looking at this week. I'm looking for guys that, have shown some recent form, whether it's last week, whether it's during the fall, guys that are good iron players, guys that putt well, especially on Bermuda, and guys that have good history. Course history here has been a lot more predictive than it has been on most venues on the PGA Tour. So let's take a look at the model for the week. Again, you can download this as a member of Premium RotoGrinders. You can customize the weights to however you see fit, and then you can upload your own rankings right into Lineup HQ, which I think is a lot of fun. And then you're making lineups based on your own decisions. You're not just trusting an optimizer to blindly make lineups for you. You have an input into the saying of how you think the course is going to play, and then you can build lineups based on your own ratings, which I think is pretty cool. So 5% off the tee, 5% of total driving. Again, it's not as important of a driving course as we saw last week. But we have seen the need for driving accuracy here go down over the last few years. So guys are starting to be more aggressive off the tee. 12% stroke gain approach. And this week we do have the expected approach numbers. What this does is it takes a look at how often a golfer is going to be hitting approach shots from each different yardage bucket and then compares that to their strokes gained from those yardage buckets. And to come up with this metric, kind of calculated myself. So we have Russell Henley, number 1. Andrew Putnam, number 2, Grayson Stig, 3, Tom Hoagie, 4, and Justin Lower, number 5. 3% to around the green. It's more important than last week, but still not all that important. 8% strokes gained putting. You could bump that up a little bit. That's kind of low compared to what I had it at last week. 6% to birdie or better, and then 3% to bogey avoidance. Bumped up course history this week to 6%. And then for my miscellaneous metric, I went with strokes gained on short and very short par 70s. Let's take a look at who rates out the best on those courses over the last 2 years. Yeah, Benyon, who nearly won here last year. I'll never forget. He was in a playoff with Grayson Murray and I want to say Keegan Bradley. And he had about 4 feet for birdie. Keegan was out of the hole. Grayson Murray nails a 40 footer for birdie. And then Benyon misses his 4-footer for birdie to extend the playoff. So it was looking like he was going to have like a 4-footer to win the event. Ended up being a 4-footer to go into another playoff hole, and he missed it. It was pretty brutal, but maybe he can get it back this week. So you got Benyon there, Russell Henley, Eric Cole, Tom Kim, Corey Connors, all guys that I think of as more technical players, good iron players, guys that play well on shorter courses. You have your recent cuts made and finishes. And then you have your form, which is broken up into a lot of different metrics. So this is how often they finish in the top 5% of the fields that they're playing in, top 10% of the fields, top 25% of the fields. Again, if you're looking for upside for tournaments or betting, I would bump up this column here, maybe this column a little bit as well. If you're looking for more of a high floor cash game, that type of thing, you just want guys that can make the cut and play well on the weekend, maybe bump up this one a little bit more. I have 7% weighted to each of the short-term, mid-term, and long-term form, and then 10% to the field strength index. Again, this just discounts guys that only play in weak fields. Somebody like Luke Clanton, if I didn't have this weighted at all, he would be the third best golfer in the model. I do have it weighted at 10%, so it's going to naturally bring down his projection because he doesn't play in that strong of field. Whereas somebody like Brian Harman plays in a lot of good fields, so it's going to naturally bump up his projection compared to the guys that don't play in very good fields. Now, let's get to the overall rankings. We'll talk about the player pool here a little bit, and then we will get out of here. I think I'm going to be making 3 bets this week. Again, last week I said I was going to include my bets on the video, so just another reason for you to watch this each week. In addition to getting my thoughts on the course and some of the players, I'm also going to be giving my bets out. So I'm going with Russell Henley. You can find him at 22-1 right now. Going with Ben Griffin. You can find him at 50-1 right now. And then I'm going with Taylor Pendrith at 35-1. Those are going to be my 3 bets of the week. So hopefully we can have a good year on the betting front. Ended up almost breaking even on the number when it came to my outright bets last year. Before that, was up quite a bit 2 years ago. So hoping to have a big 2025. Now we have a decade at the very top. Won last week. Good course history here. No issue with him. We've seen golfers coming off of a win play well the next week, especially over the last couple of years. He's not a guy that's going to be out there partying and celebrating that win. Like, this is his 11th win on tour. He's been on tour, I think, 11 or 12 years now. So he's a veteran. I don't think the win's going to, make him play bad this week. If it was somebody that was coming off their very first PGA Tour win and, they're talking about going out partying and celebrating, that would be one thing. But I do like being at least even with the field on Hideki. Like Connors as well. He's been playing well. A couple of top 6 finishes in his last 2 starts. Pretty good track record here. Henley's my favorite guy of the expensive options, 9,900, number 3 in the model. McNeely's been playing some great golf, so he picked up the win. He's got a couple other top 10s recently, including a TA last week. No issue with him. 3 for 3 at this event, which is always good. I do like Pendrith. So, again, he's not the guy that's like only can play on Bomber Fest, right? So he's actually not as good off the tee as you might expect. I mean, he's pretty good, especially over the last 3 months. But long-term, he's above average, but he's really good on approach and he's really good putter, especially, recently. So I do think it's a great spot for Pendrith. Played well last week, T10 here last year. Luke Clanton's been great, more of a tournament play for me because I do think he's got a wide range of outcomes. Ben Griffin, perfect course fit, going to be one of my favorite plays of the week. Benyon, again, nearly 1 year last year. I'll probably be overweight on Benyon if I can. No strong take on Robert McIntyre, a guy that, I like to root for, but I just never seem to be as high on him as the field. Kind of the same thing with Minwoo Lee in that he's just a popular guy, so he tends to garner more ownership than he probably should, given his projection and his stroke gain stuff. So, I like him. It's just not as a DFS play as much as the field. Siwoo Kim, I think it's interesting. He won here 2 years ago. Then we have Davis Thompson, Hitzagala, Keegan Bradley. No strong takes on them. Again, Keegan Bradley lost in the playoff here last year. 215 last week. Wasn't bad whatsoever. Kitayama, Tom Kim. Like Tom Kim, I get it. Great course fit. But he's another one of those guys that just the stroke gain data isn't catching up with his current price and ownership. So I'll probably be underweight on him for now. It's a good posting course. I like Horschel anytime we get him on Bermuda Greens. Looks like he's going to be pretty low owned. The model loves Lucas Glover. Let's take a look at the point per dollar options real quick. Yeah, Lucas Glover, number 1, likely due to his approach play, one of the best in the field. Body course history, but T5 here in 2022. You have Keith Mitchell, who tends to play well in Bermuda, so he's been really bad in the fall. 4 straight missed cuts, maybe more, if we look past the 10 weeks here. And if you want, I have in my PGA First Look that I make every week on RotoGrinders, it goes back and shows every event over the last 50 weeks. So you can scroll through and look to see how golfers have played if you want to check that out. Always free, not a premium product, so it's always free every week. You have Griffin and Klein, who I mentioned. Novak's a good ball striker, pretty good putter too. I like Eric Cole. Anytime you get him on an easy course, he's also very good on short courses. Going to be one of my favorite plays. I think my starting points are probably going to be Ben Griffin, Russell Henley, Eric Cole. Those are going to be like my three favorites in the expensive, mid-range, and value plays. And that'll just about do it. Again, we'll have a bunch of content up at RotoGrinders for the premium members. We'll have the expert survey, my article, my full breakdown of bets. Our show is going to be free every single week if you want to check that out with myself and Justin Van Zuden, aka STL Cardinals. And then we have his GPP breakdown, lineup HQs up with tags and ownership and projections. So a lot of good stuff. It's going to be a big year for RotoGrinders golf team. I can already feel it. Let's have a big week. Good luck, and we will catch you next week.